Hi, I'm Captain Mike. In this video, we're going to experiment a little bit with making your own crystal and speckle glazes. It's not a really big deal, except some of you all know that Dunkin' has gone out of business, sold out of business, whatever anyway. I think it's Mako, maybe, or Amico took them over. I'll find out before this video's over, but they don't produce exactly, there's a crossover chart with them, but they don't produce exactly what Dunkin' had. For those of you all who were familiar with Dunkin' glazes, which is predominantly what I have. It's what I've been using since I started. I've used all the others too, but I got used to using Dunkin' glazes. And you know how it is when you get used to using a glaze that you like. This is kind of what crystal glaze looks like. That's just one of the yellows is called appletini or something like that, and others make them. They make speckled glazes, and they make the crystal glazes. This is kind of a speckled glaze, okay? A little bit about this particular one in just a minute. So anyway, with the advent of Dunkin' going out of business, it's a Dunkin' glaze. There you go with another Dunkin' glaze, and but with the advent of them going out of business, you're faced with either changing over to another company, which is fine, not a problem. They make really good glazes. This is one of the competitors right here. I think this is Mako. I'm not real sure, but they make interesting glazes. But sometimes, once in a while, you ask yourself, I'd like something different. And in my case, it was where I was making a little bird bath. Now these bird baths, real simple. This one has a commercial crystal glaze on it, but I wanted something simpler. I wanted something that resembled granite. So that would be a blue-gray base with little dark blue fleeks or little black fleeks in it. And no one made that. No one made that. Some of the suggestions were go ahead and paint it gray, fire it, then come back and flick little bits of enamel bits on it. Didn't like that, so I started experimenting, and that's where this whole video started right here. This was the first one that I made. I just took a little gray, a little light blue, mixed it, and of course it's probably not going to be represented properly in this tile, but it is slightly blue-gray, and I put some very, very fine, not powder, but fine black frit into the glaze, such as this. I just mixed it all up in there, just like you would find a normal crystal glaze, all at the bottom of the cup. That's the little sample that I made. It's not a big deal. Let's glue it on there so I'll know what it is later. But that is what started it, and I said, wow, that came out great. And I wonder how far I could push this whole concept. So with that, I'm going to zoom the camera in, and I'm going to show you what I've done and pretty much how I've done it, and we'll be through here. Now, camera angle here is a little stodgy. I have to do all the camera work myself, so I have to put it on a tripod and move it around, but I'm going to try to hold these up properly. We'll start at the beginning. This is the first true speckled glaze, or not speckled, but crystal glaze that I accomplished. It was just to see if it would work, and that was on a tan background, and I just dropped some medium-sized frit of different colors on it, and it came out really good. And so with that, I was intrigued, and I said, well, what else can I do? What if I wanted it to run like some of those fancy glazes? So I took another one, and I put it in, it was on pink or a fuchsia color, and I took and put large pieces of frit and I put it in the kiln at an angle. Didn't lay it flat like I normally do. I put it in an angle. Let's see if we can get this angle. So, you know, something so it would run. And I was wise enough, of course, to use a piece of a paper so that it would catch it down here and wouldn't ruin my kiln. And you see that it did kind of run down here, but it did make some spectacular runs. All you'd have to do is learn how to control how much run and where the run ended up. Now, I will come back to some of the minuses on all this in just a minute, but let me show you the last couple. I used some great big pieces of stuff on this. Some of them was clear and baby blue, and you know, they didn't show up really good, so it's not an outstanding looking piece, but I put that on a blue background, a blue glaze, and dropped them on there and just let it flat to see what they do. They just spread out a little. And it was the same with this one right here. I used too much blue, should have used another color, but it did work. It did work. So I had a piece of, these are all low fire, by the way, all low fire. All the glazes are low fire. But I had one piece of high fire laying around. It was a high fire tile. I forget what the original color was, but it might have been white, it might have green, maybe green, I don't know. And I put the other pieces, and I put that kind of an angle so they'd run. And I wanted to see what would happen to low fire glaze on top of high fire glaze if you put glass in it. So that's what that is. That's a low fire, a high fire initial glaze, a low fire secondary glaze, and COE 90 frit. Put it in an angle and let it run a little bit. So that's what I got. So that's how I made those. And you can see from just that little bit right there that there's some promise there. Now, before I kind of show you how I done this, and I'll do it real quick, I want to explain that the one thing that you get, that I got, because I used this in a test kiln, I fired it to 1820 degrees, 30 degrees, just as fast as it'd get there, and I cooled it about as fast as it'd get there. And I got some cracks. The cracks are not bothering anything. They haven't come loose. They're quite attractive. You could put some black dye or paint or something in the cracks and they'd really jump out if you wanted that. But the cracks are there. Can you see those? I don't know how close this crazy old camera will focus, but every single one of them had anywhere from large cracks like this one to some very, very small ones that you can't even see hardly, like this. So if you don't want cracks, tiny cracks, then you're going to have to experiment with how you're going to heat and or cool, or both, this stuff to keep it from cracking up, okay? I like it, but that's me. Now, with that said, I've showed you how it can be done. I've showed you the colors. I'll show you some of the frit, what I'm talking about. When I talk about glass and I'm talking about frit, this is what I'm talking about right here. See, that's finer than sand. It's not coarse, not medium. You might call it medium. Heck, I don't know. I make this frit, so I call it whatever I want to call it. This is a little larger, as you can see, and that's just mixed, and you can do that without a problem. And I'll mention one other too that I did here that doesn't before we get started. This one was an attempt to see what dichro would do, and as you can see, it burned off all the dichro. So I don't know why it burned off all the dichro, but it did. I was using, just pieces of dichro. I didn't use very big. I cut them all up, but just scrap dichro. That's something else that you can experiment with. This is a little bigger, just a little bigger frit. I've got it in 4 sizes. when I make 4 sizes. But anyway, there we go, folks. That's my frit. That's what frit is. COE 90 in my case. Use whatever you want. So let's go over here to a real quick tutorial of how I done this. And we will try our best to be quick. What we're going to use this time is, to start with, we're going to use some of this Amico opalescent, what is it? Fuchsia. Call it what you want. If I can get top off of it. Now, this is on flat pieces. I'll end up by telling you what we'll do on a piece like this. We might even try to show you what I'll do. But on these pieces, as you experiment, go ahead and slop you a lot of glaze on your piece. I put 3 coats. In this case, I'm not going to put 3 coats. I'm going to put 2, and we're going to let this dry just a second. Stuff dries pretty quick. It's not really dry in certain places. We're going to slop it on there anyway, because it's not really important. And as I said, 3 coats always works better with this low fire glaze. This is low fire glaze. I'm going to put 2, and I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to the next step. Let me rewind just a minute. Actually, this is the second coat, and we're not going to let it dry. I forgot. You guys remember that I've only done this a few times, so at my age I forget lots of things. While the glaze is still wet, get you some frit. In this case, we're going to use all this multicolored stuff. The reason I want the glaze to be somewhat wet is it will hold the frit in place somewhat. Now, I've just haphazardly done this, okay? Not a real big deal. Put it where you want it, be more exact, but you know, that's what you're going to do. That's what you do. You put your frit on top of your wet glaze, and you let it sit until it dries. That will stick some of this frit in place. So now we will let it dry. Okay, our base coat of low fire, I guess you could use high fire, I don't know, I didn't go with that. But our base coat is dry, and hopefully most of our frit is stuck. Now, what I do next is I take some clear, okay, clear. And you could use any brand you want. I just happen to have lots of this. And I coat this whole thing with clear. There's another way we can do this, but I'll get to that in a minute if I don't forget. Okay? I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to put this in the kiln, and when it dries a little bit, and I'll explain this other stuff to you. Right, what I do is I liberally coat my brush, and I try not to drag it too much across all this frit. Now, be real careful as you're doing this that you don't get a piece of frit caught on your brush and you let it drop into your little container of clear, because you might end up with something extremely interesting later on down the road when you don't want it to be in there. Alright, that's a big gooey mess, folks. Yeah, I know, I didn't get the edges, and that's fine. If you wonder why this is green, is it's just the way Duncan does theirs, so that you'll know you put clear on it for some reason, but trust me when I tell you that's the way Duncan does it, or did it, past tense. So there we go, folks. I'm going to put this in the kiln after it's dried just a little, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you a couple of ideas, and then we'll be through with this thing. Now, I have not tried this one before. Laid in bed the other night when I was thinking about doing this video, and I said to myself, self, what if these folks aren't doing tiles? What if they're doing bowls and bottles and all kinds of stuff with smooth edges that are vertical? So we got to figure out something to do. Well, I figured out what I could do, and we're going to try it here. Folks, you're seeing this for the first time. I've got two different colors of glaze here. Again, it's low fire glaze. I've got some white, and I've got some strawberry, and we're gonna do a little bit on one side. I'm gonna run through here right quick about what you gotta do. No matter how you do this on a vertical surface, you've got to be able to get this stuff to stick. And it would help if you had someone with you to help. I don't. Probably never will. So I do the camera work, I do the talking, I do everything, editing, all by my little old lonesome. And it does get lonesome, especially when you're going to do things like this. First, we are going to put some of this, well, I tell you what, this is hot tamale, which means it's got some white specks already in it, okay? I'm going to use this, and I'm going to put some black in it, just to see if how hard it's going to be to stick. So this is a little heavier than the black, so we're going to have to work fast. I'm not going to do the whole bottle, okay? I'm going to get down dirty and messy. Let's see, this might be better if I squirt this. So we'll put that top back on it, and we'll do that, and we're just going to squirt it. And then really, really, really in a fast way, we're going to just do this just like this. All over, just like you dip it. And then real quick, it's already wanting to dry. We're going to get some black, and we're going to sprinkle it all over it, okay? Just like that. Now folks, that seemed to work pretty good. If I wanted to, put 2 coats of glaze and the third coat, or 3 coats and the third coat really sloppy, or the second coat really sloppy, you could probably get away with not having to put the clear coat over that. That did stick, okay? I did it all by myself. I would imagine that if you were really super quick, you could get the whole boat, this whole thing by yourself. Whatever else you use, that's going to be, whatever color glaze, kind of glaze, that's going to be up to you. Okay, I've got my Dunkin' White, Mako White, Amoco White, whatever you want to use. And it's kind of green too, so I think that Dunkin' does that just to kind of give you some rough idea that you are working with something that won't show up. If you put white or clear on white biscuit, don't show up. So let's just go at it. Again, I'm not going to have to squirt it, but I'm going to really have to move. So let's really move. More sloppier than I would normally be, okay? All right, before it's got a time to dry, I'm going to get some of this red. It's a little coarser, and I'm going to put it on it. All right, there you go. Throw it at it. Boom. All right. It looks like it's going to stick too. If it looks like it's going to fall off when everything gets dry, put a coat of clear over it. So I don't know how that looks to you, but these close-ups in this camera going in the opposite direction are a pain in the tiny. But that's how it looks, folks. And now, expect it to move unless you play with your temperatures. It might move a little. By that I mean, the bigger these are, they might not be nice flat specks like that. They may go oblong on you. They may do something on you. I don't know. But that's what I do on a vertical piece. I hope I haven't gotten too far out of the ballpark on this. There's so much. This is this is all an experiment, folks. And if you've done this before, please just laugh with me, give me advice, don't insult me, because I lay in bed at night and I think of these crazy things, and if I haven't seen the video, I'll try it. If I've seen the video on something like this, I'll give a comment to where I've seen the video and proper credit, because nothing is new under the sun. Somebody somewhere has done it before. So I'm not going to fire this bottle, at least not now, because it won't go in my test kiln, and it'll be 24 hours, and I hope to be through this video here shortly. So let me go check on a couple of things, and I'll be right back, and I'll give you a couple of more little tricks that I have learned. What I'm going to show you while the other piece is firing in the kiln, my test kiln, it'll take about an hour and then maybe a few more minutes to cool off so that I can get it out, and then I'll show you what we have on that piece. But while I'm on the matter of the cracks, which is what I'm fixing to discuss with you here, this one, which was my first piece, has no cracks. And the reason for that is, I'm 99% sure, is I run this test piece through a glaze schedule in my regular kiln. So it heated up properly and it cooled down properly and nothing cracked. It would be interesting, and I will test it, so that if someone asks in the comments below, did I get rid of the cracks? I'll do another one kind of like this. Can I get rid of the cracks by using a regular glaze schedule? That's the question. Now, what I'm going to show you now is, we do have big cracks. Actually, I like cracks on a lot of my stuff if it doesn't get in the way of the, the stuff not sticking together. I don't want pieces of glaze to fall off. So what we're going to try to do here is I'm going to try to accentuate. Is that a word? Did I say use that word right? Us old Southern boys, we don't sometimes say things. We kind of bastardize the whole English language. So anyway, I have got some black acrylic. They say you can use dye. They say you can use all kinds of things. And we're going to smear it right here. Then we're going to try to remove it. You get some water before this thing gets too monkey waddled. Making a mess, Mikey. All right. Yes, it did. It worked great. There you go. So if you like your cracks and you want to accentuate your cracks, just put you a little dye. Use something that doesn't dry super quick, so you can get it off, because it did look like it might have stained some of this. I don't know. Maybe it didn't. What do you think? That's it. I drift out of the camera because my mind is somewhere else. So other than showing you what the test piece comes out looking like, that's going to be it. So we're going to wait a while. I'll be back in a while. Okay, I've got this thing out of my kiln. Way too hot. I can hear this rascal going ting, ting, ting already. But I want to get this video done. This is just to show you what it looks like. It's not for any other purpose. And it's still hot. I'm not even going to pick it up with my fingers. But I'm going to show you what you got, what I've got. You don't have anything yet. You guys are going to have a whole lot better. So this is what we painted while I was watching, while y'all were watching me online. If you see the colors are too big for me, maybe that's what you're after. If that's what you're after, then you're going to use stuff about this size, okay? Maybe a little bigger. But all of this come from this right here, okay? This size right here. Now, if you want it to get a little finer, a little bit more detailed, go with something like this, all right? Or maybe even finer. And give it a shot and see what happens. There's not a whole lot more that I can say about this do-it-yourself crystal or speckle glaze. You know, if you find a color you like, it's easier to go ahead and buy the commercial glaze. This one here is, of course, two colors. I showed you that before, but you can see that different glass and different glaze does different things. You might could even combine 90 and 96. I don't know, because it's not going to do anything but crack the glaze a little bit. But, you know, if you like this stuff, and I do, you know, you get all this different stuff up here, see? All these different kinds. And you can go from kind of regular to something really runny and odd looking, nice looking. And remember that if you take it out too fast, it's going to crack. So that's it. That's my video on do-it-yourself crystalline glazes or speckled glazes, whatever you wish to call them. I'm sure some of you have ideas far better than I could possibly have. Feel free to comment below. Be nice. I'll be nice back. I try to answer everybody's comments. This is a learning process. Thought of it one night, said what the heck, let's give it a try. So y'all gotta get going with it. Teach me a little something. I could use the help. I'm Captain Mike. It's my video and I'm out of here.